Since 1855, Bordeaux has been home to the legendary premier crus, Lafitte, Latour, Margaux, Haut-Brion, and Mouton. And the list of second, third, and fourth growths is broad and equally as impressive. These days, for those exalted crus, the prices have skyrocketed beyond the reach of most of us. But altogether, they make up a really small percentage of the overall wine production in this region. So for 2 shows, we're here in Bordeaux to concentrate on smaller family farmers, the grower-producers, the new face of Bordeaux.
I'm Mike Colameco, industry insider. Been in the business my whole life, and I know what it takes to succeed. Each week we'll take you into real kitchens, filmed in real time. Backstage passes to a day in the life of chefs, restaurateurs, and their teams. The competition's fierce. Careers, life savings, and reputations hang in the balance. These are my people, and this is their passion. And that's what's next on Mike Colameco's Real Food.
Mike Colameco's Real Food is brought to you by the continuous, generous support of the following underwriters.
Extra virgin olive oil from COLAVITA, an Italian family brand.
Rachel Ray's signature specialty food line, designed for preparing meals at home.
Well, we can't just do a show on wine, so day one in Bordeaux was a Sunday, and we hit a market that was just popping.
There's this huge market in Bordeaux called the Marché du Capuchin. Under one roof, all kinds of vendors, fish, meat, cheese. There's restaurants, there's produce, there's specialty shops. I can never resist these things. Get me near a market and I want to get in. So we're going to do a tour, see what they've got, and start here with a fish. This is one of my favorite Mediterranean fish, rouget. Scale it, cook it with the skin on, skin crisps up beautifully. It has a really beautiful fish flavor. If you like fish that tastes like fish, rouget's your baby. That's clearly octopus. This is mackerel. This is mullet, like you see in the States. A lot of guys use this for bait fish where I come from. It's a kind of a funky, oily, bony fish with a lot of scales, but anyway. And this I've never seen, it's called carrelette. It's like a fluke or a flounder, but it's got these crazy orange spots on it. Scallops are where they love them here with the roe sack attached to them. I don't know why we don't get this in America more, because they're available. And then he's got this whole section of squid, little tiny squid, tentacles, beautiful, just as fresh as can be. In the middle of this market, there's a cheese stall, and the guy does one thing. Pours wine and has these little cutting boards where you kind of get to pick your cheeses. He's got a little menu up there, makes these little simple cheese sandwiches, different cheeses, little herbs, some bread, some peppers, whatever. But I mean, talk about the French love their cheese. We've been here for an hour, and there's been like a line 3 deep the whole time we've been sitting here. Here's a place that bills itself as charcuterie, 100% volaille, 100% chicken. They've got birds over there with the heads on. I mean, these are all organic, free-range, biologic birds. That's their claim to fame here. We've got rabbits here, we've got livers here. We call them swab in the United States. I love these birds. They call them pigeons in France. They're delicious. Eat them rare, medium rare, gorgeous. So I'm wandering around this stall and I love this. All this guy does is oysters. He's got 15, 20 kinds of oysters from all over the coast of France. That's his one thing. He's the oyster guy. Look at that meat. Big, big, fat, juicy, buttery. I gotta eat this thing. Woo! Très frais. Incroyable.
Okay, now let's hit a vineyard. It's full-on harvest time here. So we're in one of the vineyards of Château Lynch-Bages, just outside of the town of Bages, in Pauillac, in the heart of the Médoc. Left bank, old school France. This is about as old school as you can get. 2015 harvest has been amazing. It was a great year. The summer was super hot, super dry. September was really mercifully dry. They were going to start harvesting a week or 10 days ago, but the weather that you see, they've had this for 2 weeks in a row. So the grapes are super ripe. They're beginning to shrink, getting super concentrated. Everybody's thrilled. The grapes they're harvesting are Cabernet Sauvignon. Normally here, with the reds, Merlot is harvested first, then Cabernet Sauvignon.
These guys are kind of early with their Cabernet Sauvignon because they've got super ripeness. Hand cutting at Lynch-Bage, does it get better than this? They're hand harvesting, so everything's hand selected. They're going to put these grapes in those buckets up to the truck. There's a little more hand selection. Then they're going to go back to the reception, they call it, where there's yet another selection, and then finally the crush. Both left bank and right bank, and of course down south where they call it graves for a reason, because the soil's very gravelly. That's what graves means. But here in the Medoc, which is really the heart of the left bank, the old school, this is the soil type. You've got lots of these stones, big stones, and if you can hear this sound as I scrape the soil, it's just stones. It's stones, and then as we get a little further in, we're going to find clay. And then in the base, there's going to be like a limestone base, and you're not allowed to irrigate in any of the AOCs in France. So these vines have to live on the rain they have. And this is a very dry summer, which they really, really like, and a dry harvest, which they really, really like. And it forces these roots to go down through the clay, hit the limestone, and start to penetrate the limestone in search of water. And that depth of root, the age of the vines on average, 30, 40, 50 plus years in some vineyards, you get these really complex wines. Since the 1980s, when Bordeaux was kind of really doing a lot of bulk and, you could say they were overcropping, they've really cut down on what they're getting per hectare. They green prune, they limit the amount of production. Wines have never been better. These vines are kind of forced through hydric stress, through the heat, to dig down, to find water. Super mineral, super, super driven wines that way. And this 2015 harvest is just looking to be fantastic. But again, it starts with the soil. These guys are just farmers at heart, and this is the soil that they work with, and they've learned over generations how to make great wine with this stuff.
As consumers in America drinking wines, we're always looking for areas that represent great value but also have, a high quality level.
Right, we want terroir, we want acidity, we want minerality, we want something that wine tells a story.
Yeah.
You are a rock star, young Somme, totally on fire, and you're here and we bump into you. You happen to be in Bordeaux doing the same thing we're doing. It's the crush, we're here for tastings and doing tours.
Within the realm of this area, now we're starting to see young winemakers that are able to buy small vineyard lands and be able to make wines that are compelling, food-friendly, and affordable. So that kind of thing, which has always been the case, but never been paid attention to by Americans as consumers, it's starting to change. It wasn't they weren't allowing the wines to come to our shores, there just wasn't an interest. But now, as people that are more aware of great value in wine, are starting to be wine consumers as the millennials are drinking more wine. It's great. It's an exciting time for Bordeaux, but more importantly, I think it's an exciting time for us as consumers of wines.
While Bordeaux is justly famous for its red wines, it produces some great white wines too, and it's also renowned for its sweet wines, Sauternes and Barsac, made from Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon that have been afflicted with the noble rot known as botrytis. Next, we'll talk about pairing Sauternes with food and not desserts.
One of the great confusions with Sauternes is it's classically called a dessert wine as a category, which is like to me a complete misnomer. The last thing I would want to eat with dessert is something this sweet. I would prefer this with what we have put before us today, which is a variety of cheeses. What do you think Sauternes pairs well with?
Ou après sur des salades de chèvre chaud, des choses, surtout le Sauterne, sur des choses très simples. Salade de chèvre chaud.
Folks, I'll do my best to translate here. Emily's suggesting pairing Sauternes with goat cheese alone or as a warm salad, with chicken dishes, veined blue cheeses, and fruit-based desserts.
That's a great pairing. That's beautiful together. So we see the grapes here too. It's, I guess the old rule of thumb with winemaking is that one vine would yield roughly a bottle, maybe a bottle and a half of wine by the time you're done. With Sauternes, the old expression is one vine leads to one glass. Yeah, this is a labor of love. Turning that into this is like magic.
Yes.
And another recommendation for me, for just the general American public, is Sauternes for breakfast on a daily basis. Just a little bit in the morning with buttered toast. It's beautiful with cornflakes. It's perfect because you got the dairy component like cheese, Yeah. Sauternes for breakfast of champions. trying to remember the first time I had this pastry. Could have been Bordeaux, could have been Paris, but the pastry is cannelé, and it's from Bordeaux. We're at Cannelé Bayardrin, which is really the place that's super famous for this, and now I have the backstory. In winemaking, you have to filter wine. You have to find the wine at the end to make it clear. And like chefs use egg whites to clear consommé, winemakers use egg whites to clean wine, to find it. So there was always an excess of egg yolks in the process of winemaking. Somewhere along the line, someone said, hey, we got those extra yolks, let's do something with them, something for the poor. And this recipe came up for cannelé that was originally a gift for the poor with leftover egg yolks that now became this really epic dessert. Super crispy, super interesting, super rubbery and glutinous on the outside, but it's not from gluten. And super creamy, doughy, steamed, delicious on the inside, with maybe a little hint of rum if you've got the palate. So this is the mold that they use for the cannelé, and you can see the copper on the bottom, tin on the inside, and then this little implement is dipped in beeswax, and what they call in French chemiser. You line the mold thoroughly. For cooks out there and pastry chefs, this apparatus is kind of like a crepe batter in a way, or Yorkshire pudding batter, in that it's made a day ahead, refrigerated overnight so the gluten completely relaxes. And then the next day, it's taken out of the refrigerator, it's put in these molds lined with beeswax. It's maybe an ounce and a half of apparatus. It's been cooked an hour. Came out of the oven, this would have been the top side that saw the air, and it's got a little more color because it rises slightly up above that mold, gets all this great color on the outside, bottom's completely crispy, it's got this great form. The outside gives it this crunchiness from that beeswax and the copper, that contact. It's really hard to get inside these things. There, look at this. Look at the air inside that. So it's amazing. So it's this combination of the outside is completely chewy and crunchy and really unctuous and delicious, and then this inside that literally reminds me of like steamed pudding. You know what? I've got to eat it. If you've never had one, you've got to try it. It's the perfect breakfast sandwich. This is great.
Next up, Chateau Au Nouchet, in the region of Pessac-Léognan, in the northern Graves, run by the Brest family.
We've got a great terroir, of course, but it's very close to Bordeaux. And when you're here, you don't feel you're so close, so it's kind of protected place.
Is this one of the highest elevations?
Exactly, it's one of the highest points in the appellation Pessac-Léognan. That's very good because we always get some winds. When you get some wet weather, it will dry very fast on the leaves or the fruits and avoid,
minimal amount of spraying, minimal amount of disease, minimal amount of problem. Healthy soil. I mean, looking at the ground, it's moving, it's vibrant.
Here, what we try to get anyway is really to push the maturity for the white and for the reds, to get more terroir expression. Terroir, it's where everything starts, so that's what we try to express in our wines.
This is where you make the wine.
Exactly.
What am I looking at here? What grape?
It's a Merlot.
We got Merlot, which is of your reds, it's usually the first one to ripen.
Exactly. We wanted to get the full maturity, and we're enjoying this great sun, and so we're going to harvest in a few days. How we realize that it's almost ripe, when you remove the fruits, you can see the red stick.
Yeah, at the end, where you pulled it out.
Exactly. So that means that it's close to the full maturity.
And this year, 2015, you've had this amazing hot summer, really productive vines. You're going to have really good yields. Why harvest if you have 5 or 6 more days of the season for concentration to get those grapes a little tighter, a little riper? Why?
The few more days that you gain at the end makes the difference into the wine after that.
Your whites are already not only finished, they're picked, and they're fermented and they're on leaves.
Their fermentation is done, and so we're starting the aging into barrels that will last 8 to 10 months. We're going to taste Sauvignon Blanc that is finished to ferment 10 days ago now. That's why the color is not as clear, and we're making some batonnage, but flavors are here. You got exotic fruits, you get peach.
Peach, ripe melon, peach flesh. This in 9 months, 10 months, a year is going to be incredible.
I'm very confident with the quality of the 2015 wine.
The only thing this wine could really use that would make it a little bit better is if I got a chance to do batonnage.
You think so? The lees are going to settle
On
into
the bottom,
barrel.
always.
It's a very traditional way, and mechanically we move the lees, and it will give more roundness to the wine and more complexity too.
All around the bottom.
Yeah.
And just
to follow, you know, the shape of the barrel.
shape of the barrel.
Yeah. You're making some great batonnage.
Are you hiring?
It's Arpège 2010, 60% Merlot and 40% of Cabernet Sauvignon. I know quite well this vintage because I made it almost by myself, this one.
Red fruit, ripe berries, just this super exuberant fruit nose. This is really delicious. So we're going to pair this with something. Those of you in America that don't know what lamproie is, it's lamprey eel, and it's the vampire eel. Swims in from the ocean up the rivers, and it attaches itself to other fish.
So it was prepared with a chef in Bordeaux and with the wine of the estate. And so we're...
God, it's sweet. It's still, this is great. This is so good. I'm like a lamprey freak. You were literally farmers before this.
We're still actually farming maize, corn, potatoes, carrots, but we were passionate by wine, and we decided in 2008 to jump to this side of the farming sector.
Great timing, because 2008 was your first experiment. 2009, you're getting to know it, and then suddenly 2010, and it's like home run, home run, home run, home run. Great.
Yeah, hopefully 2015 will be the same. I mean, it started as well as 2010, and we are expecting the same results.
Chateau Smith-Lafitte was bought by Olympic ski team star Daniel Cathillard and his wife in the 1990s, after they both sold successful businesses that they developed. The estate is now run by their daughter, Alice Tourbier.
This is an amazing story. You know, we drive in and you see this gorgeous chateau, and it looks like it's been in the family for 10 generations, and I'm going to meet you, and there's going to be a picture of your great-great-grandfather on the wall.
No.
This is your parents' story, and of course, your family story. Talk a little bit about it.
I wasn't born in a barrel. I was born in Grenoble, which is the other part of France.
Right.
And my family moved to Bordeaux when I was 15 years old. My parents had invested in this beautiful chateau that was at this time not one of the top of the list Bordeaux wines, but we knew that there was an amazing potential. It was like a sleeping beauty. So I'm very proud of what my parents did. We combined the very authentic method of winemaking as well as the architecture and the most modern technology that you can find to make the wines so nice.
This is also home to a 2-star Michelin restaurant headed by chef Nicolas Mas.
And what I want to do is just deep fry.
Soft-boiled egg.
Deep fry with pâte à filo.
Yeah, filo though.
On just a few steps, pan fry. We put like a carpaccio in the plate. We put after the deep fry eggs on the top on the juice of chicken.
All right.
Easy but very good.
You say it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy for me. I'm going to watch. So this is the same mushroom in Italy they call the porcini. So the ceps grow around here. You can just pick them off the land.
There is a cep from Médoc, with cep from Bordeaux.
And it smells good.
After when the eggs cook, we put in the ice water. Peel immediately after.
After cooking them.
If you wait too long, after the stick, we have to make julienne with pâte à filo. Little salt.
Olive oil and mushrooms. It's a beautiful smell, right? Why do you like the rice flour?
Because it's crispy.
Crispy, gets really crisp. That's just brown chicken stock all the way down.
Yeah, just a chicken stock with no vegetable, just onion, white wine, a little garlic.
This is little mashed potato just to glue the egg, so the egg doesn't fall all over. Beautiful. And then when the customer goes to cut it, the egg yolk runs out, and you have that more richness on it. So, Alice, this is a really hard wine pairing. As a chef, I'm thinking, ooh, egg yolk and wine is like, I don't know. Tell me what you picked.
I choose to taste it with white wine because I think our dry white wine is very fresh, very intense, and I think it will go through the egg.
You're right. You're right. It goes right through it.
I think it can match
super.
this great meal. Here in this part of Bordeaux, we are just south of Bordeaux city centre in the Grave, Pessac-Léognan. We've been producing amazing dry white wines. For most people, Bordeaux is famous for red. But the Bordeaux dry white wines
are astonishingly good. I love them.
Merci beaucoup.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're at Chateau Le Fond Rocher, just down the road from Côte d'Estronnel. These are super, super famous estates, first growths. But here you've got a different soil type than we saw at Lynch Bage. You've got a little bit of elevation, and the limestone's way further down here. The grape vines never really hit it. This is just a mix of gravel and clay, all the way down as far as the roots can go. These roots run down 10 meters easily in search again. There's no irrigation here allowed, period. So in order to find water in a dry year like 2015, they go way down. It's an interesting estate. We're going to meet the son. I forget how many generations, not that long. They've been in Cognac for 600 years, but I think they've only been here for 3 generations. So they're kind of the newbies.
We've been making Cognac for the past 5 centuries. My grandfather was making Cognac, and this is from my father's side, but on my mother's side, my grandfather used to be his Pierre Lillet. And we were also making aperitif called Lillet for the past 200 years.
Signature, huge.
He's the one who gave me the love of taste. We are just straight at the border in between the ocean and the river. And the Pyrenees came a long way from the mountain, left different layers of soil.
Take a look at the soil type, man. It's just gnarly, gnarly, gnarly. This, and that stress, that hydric stress, gives this wine this super, super terroir. It's Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot the whole way. It's really hard to find consistently people to work the crop from the beginning of the crush to the end. Everybody here was speaking Portuguese, and it looks like they've done this before.
In the 1980s, my father at La Fonrocher, my uncle at Ponte-Canet decided to have the same team of harvesters. They've been in Portugal looking for the best speakers that they've been hearing about, and those were from a little village near the town of Chaves, and all those speakers are coming from this village. Of course, 26 years now you have the children who are coming now. If there is a DNA in La Fonrocher, they are part of it.
You just started the Cabernet Sauvignon, this was day 1. Yeah. You had a couple of plots that were ripe, and then you were distracted for your phone's going off, Do we harvest tomorrow? Do we harvest Saturday, or do we wait till Sunday? And you were back and forth, back and forth.
Every day we taste the juice, we taste the berries on the vine tree. So we are listening to what the berries are saying. You're betting on the next day, but we are gambling with nature. We don't know what we get in front of us, but if we win, well, it might be la timbale.
It's been really a dry month of September. It's just oozing juice. And again, you see where I picked the grape. It's all red, no green. I can't wait to drink this vintage. So the Merlot's all done, Cabernet is always the second one. You just started today with the plots that were ripe. Tell me about what's happening behind us.
You've got the sorting table, and those 3 kids there are getting rid of the leaves and some bunches that have a little bit of botrytis, which is a rot. And then you've got the steamer, which is just behind. And then an optical sorting table.
Yeah, that optical sorting table, and it always amazed me, because it's like a pretty quickly moving sheet, and it's able to detect tiny imperfections. Out of the millions of grapes that pass through this every day, it manages to pick out the little green ones, just the slightly bad ones. State of the art. And then Basile's going to scoop out and show you the good ones. Those are the ones that made the cut. But you kind of resisted this.
In fact, I didn't want this machine. My father wanted it, our consultant, which is Jean-Claude Berrouet, wanted it. So I said, no, there's too much technology in our cellar. And those 2 persons told me, man, we've been waiting for this machine for the past 50 years, and you, little boy, you're saying no.
And now that you have it.
It's a tool, and behind every tool you need to have a man. And this machine is only getting rid of what you don't want.
This way you're only losing the bad grapes and you're getting all the good grapes for the crush.
Exactly.
Most of the time, the cellars are super dark, they're underground, they're moldy and musty. You have natural sunlight coming in upstairs. This is a brand new facility, just 2015 first vintage?
Yes. As that's our very first year, we've been putting a bit of Merlot inside concrete. And right now we are pumping over, meaning that we take the juice from below and putting it up on the hat. And the hat is the skins with the seeds. You need to put some juice on it in order to get some tannins. The color and the tannins is coming from the seeds and the skin.
Gotcha.
Making wine is about having choices, about blending, especially in Bordeaux. So we wanted to blend stainless steel vats with concrete vats. If you have only stainless steel, you can only use stainless steel. If you have only concrete, you can only use concrete. But we have both. And this is all natural, and this used to be what it was done 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's very classic.
2009, I made it. 2000, my father made it. This is 2000. Well, black currant.
Yeah, black fruit all the way.
The wines are made in order to be drunk in a few years' time. They can age beautifully. The difference in between a good vintage and a very good vintage, the difference in between a good wine and a very good wine is the amount of details you put in between. And every single detail counts. That's what I like about this terroir. You know what's the terroir? The terroir is a mix of the weather, the soil, and mankind. That's all.
To the next generation in 2015.
Thank you.
Well, we're not done yet, folks, so stay tuned for Bordeaux 2, the next show in this Real Food series.
So, to Bordeaux.
Mike Colameco's Real Food is brought to you by the continuous, generous support of the following underwriters.
Extra virgin olive oil from COLAVITA, an Italian family brand.
Rachel Ray's signature specialty food line, designed for preparing meals at home.